I want to open the lesson today with two short pieces of scripture. Where do I get these stubby nosed? Uh, 16, 2, and 3, and oh yeah, this is what made me go down a cul-de-sac with my lovely wife Sherry yesterday. You won't believe that Genesis 6:5 could do that to you. So first we're going to read Matthew 16, 2 to 3. This is Jesus now. And in context, he's talking to the Pharisees and he's giving them the what for. That's not why I have this up here. You'll understand in just a second. 16:2-3, Jesus replied, he replied, when evening comes, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, today it will be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. We'll come back to the other verse in a little bit here. So they wanted a sign. And in that, if you read chapter 16, and Jesus said, you ain't getting no sign. I wouldn't give you a sign if the day, no. That would be us. You just go sit in your corner, you know. They wanted a sign that he was a Messiah. After all the things that he'd demonstrated, they wanted a sign. Show us a sign. Show us a sign. And you know what? What would happen if he showed them a sign?
Show us another sign.
Yeah, or they wouldn't believe that sign. Yeah. Oh, that was just a trick. Show us a real sign. Yeah. Nobody's going to, pardon me just a second here. They were just trying to, in a way, make fun or belittle Christ. But I have this verse for a reason this morning. Everybody wants a sign. And the apostle, we started reading chapter 24. What are the signs? When are these things going to happen? What are the signs? What are the signs? And we're running around even today. People will come up with all kinds of signs that Jesus is just around the corner. Last Sunday we talked about the Russian guy. And
you're going to see him today.
You're
going to have a picture of him today.
Oh, are we? Oh, yeah. Good. A worship? Oh, cool. We'll take our camera out there. But our problem when we want signs, we're living in man's world and not the spirit world. And I've mentioned this in class before. We're actually a spirit created in this body, or trapped in this body, if you will. God is spirit and must be worshipped in spirit and truth. The beginning, if you will, was always a spirit world. He created the material world. And we're trapped inside that. And so we end up, and then you throw Adam and Eve in there, which we're going to watch in a minute here. And the sin nature gets in this creation, and now we're a mess. Why do good things happen to bad people? And, we can be in church and then on our way home say something nasty to the guy who cuts us off in the street. Oh, Lord, I hope he does have a sense of humor, because I'm like, God, did I really just do that, So I would argue that either the influence that Satan has in our lives or the carnal nature of our being, we want to see things. We don't want to believe something we can't see. We want to see things. So when you're talking about the signs of Jesus coming, mankind's looking for physical signs. Oh, this eclipse, we never had one like that before, or this hurricane, or this, whatever it is. But the signs that Jesus is coming are in the spirit world, not in the physical world. And that I'll hammer on that a lot all the way through Revelation. Don't get caught up. I said that last week. Don't get caught up in interpreting the next war is the beginning of the tribulation period, or the next 2000 COVID is, this is it. Forget all that junk. Keep your eye on Jerusalem and Israel, and the church. Those are the signs that are going to tell us when he's coming. So that's why I wanted to start with this. The Pharisees were looking the wrong thing. Here the Messiah is standing right in front of them. They couldn't see it. We don't want that to happen to us. And that is what's going to happen at some point. Compromise is just going to take everybody, because that's what Satan does. He comes in with a half-truth, you compromise, and then you've stepped one to the right, now you'll take another step to the right, and before you know it, the truth's way over there somewhere, and you can't even remember what it was. So we're now in verse 36, which in my Bible is titled, The Day and the Hour Unknown, which is why we started with something on signs this morning. But about the day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second because you can read a ton of theological discussions about whether Christ didn't know it then, but he knows it now. Or Christ, being God in the flesh, must have known it, and all this stuff. The Bible says, God says, but about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, who play a big role, nor the Son, but only the Father. And we just have to trust that that's correct. God had a plan when he created us. His plan included creating us through Christ. Christ created everything physical and a lot of spiritual things as well. And I've told the class, when we tend to think God had a plan, man here, and at the end, that's it, and then heaven. That was God's plan. No, God's plan is create man here, and his plan goes way the heck out there somewhere, eternity. He has a plan for all of it. It isn't that he knows what's going to happen to us today. He knows what's going to happen to us 1,000,000 years from now. It's just incredible. So he knows when the right moment will be for all these things to begin. Nobody else, including the Russian who was in prison, nobody. And don't let anybody ever fool you, period. Nobody knows. So Wes goes down too many cul-de-sacs when he's studying, if you think I'm bad in class. Verse 37, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. Now, we'll read 38 as well, then I'm reading something else. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. We don't want to be those people. And we'll see what Christ tells us about not being those people in just a second. So now we're going to go over to Genesis 6, which is, I think it's 5 and 6, 6, 7, and 8. You end up, this is all about the flood. Building, Noah's calling to build the ark, what was going on before then, so on. So in Genesis 6:5, it says, the Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil, all the time. We'll see it again today. You've read it before about how the closer we get to Christ's return, the hearts of many grow cold. That's what happened here. In this case, it isn't many. It says all of them, everybody. No. We ever do a study on Sodom, the first question I'll ask is, why did it get destroyed? Why did Sodom get destroyed? Having been over there, by the way. Pardon me?
Sin.
Okay, what sin?
Their sexual sins or whatever they
were. Now he doesn't want to get trapped by narrowing it down to just one. He's taking the whole book of Leviticus and going everything in there.
If there was something that they could do wrong, they were doing it. It wasn't just sexual sin. I always find that we as humans, we try to grade sin. Well, that's worse than this.
Oh yeah, the Catholic Church has a whole program for that.
Well, if you say 5 Hail Marys for this one, you're okay,
Well, that's covering it up, but they have Venial and all these different, yeah.
It was like ingrained in their culture.
So that's a good answer. It's the wrong one, but that's a good answer. Thank you. What does God's, I should have brought it in with me. We're down a cul-de-sac I wasn't prepared for. God actually tells us why he destroyed Sodom. And it was lack of compassion. And if you remember the story of Lot, when the angels came into the marketplace, which that's where I was excavating, not the market, the gateway area they call it. The angels were going to go sleep in the marketplace, and he said, "Oh, what did he say? Don't go there. It's very unsafe." So he took them to their house. The angels didn't tell Lot they were there because the city was going to be judged to this homosexual business and flattened. They had a normal conversation, it says, for several hours until all the men of the city, it says all the men of the city, showed up at Lot's door. For what purpose? For what purpose?
Have sex with the angels.
They wanted to have sex, well, his daughters. No, they didn't want. No, the angels, and he offered his daughters, which blows everybody's mind. You know? Oh, here, have my daughters instead. You know, wait a minute. Yeah, to have sex with the angels. These are visiting guests of Lot's. They could have cared less. And the problem with the city was their heart was stone cold. Again, there was no compassion, no anything. If you go to the Middle East today, and I know you read a lot of bad stories, but I can tell you, generally, Middle Easterners are very hospitable, just very. These folks had no compassion for anything, no mercy, no anything. And I'd have to go get I'll bring them week after next. Or Jason, maybe I'll look them up for you in the meantime. But God clearly says, this is why I destroyed Sodom. Because, take Jason's answer, they were breaking every Levitical code. Well, wait a minute. Those codes, you remember I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. What does the Levitical codes tell us about the life going on around that part of the world? When they came out of Egypt, all this stuff was natural. All this stuff was custom. All this stuff was accepted. And God's trying to set these people apart from that and says, no, you don't do this. You don't do that. Well, if they weren't doing it, if they weren't eating alligator already, he wouldn't have to tell them, don't eat an alligator, or live with whatever the word is there. You don't have to tell somebody, don't do something if they're not doing it. What's in there is what was going on in the culture in the whole part of the known world at the time. Sex with animals, sex with your wife and daughter, and who knows what all. I mean, all these, even if you go over to some countries, and I can't name them, but I could, but I won't. But if you go over to some countries in the Middle East today, women are still down here. They're almost, they're not even acknowledged when they're in the room with the guys. And if you look, when all the disaster footage and things in the news are going on, you rarely ever see a woman out there. They have to stay back. It's all guys. Their society was, and back then it was even worse. So Sodom got destroyed for lack of compassion. But this says every inclination of the thoughts of human heart, that was the case when God destroyed the earth with a flood. Everybody, apparently except Noah and his family, had just a stone cold heart. And I don't have it here. Somebody have their Bible open. I believe that, is it the verse or two next? I'm not going to contend with man any longer, and the number of his years is 120 or something like that. Somewhere in chapter 6, God says 120 years is it for man. And then later, you know what? This is it for man. You know?
It was in verse 3.
Oh, okay. What's it say?
Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh, his days shall be 120 years.
Yeah. We haven't seen 120 yet. The occasional person will pop in the news at 105 or something, you know. But back then, Moses was 110, I believe, when God took him, and he was clear of eye, and it's all sorts of things. He wasn't just elderly, he was in healthy shape. can't think of his name now. Dang on it. Anyway, there's lots of examples of who were the two spies that came over and got
Joshua and Caleb.
Caleb. And I believe it was Caleb said, I don't know, he's 88 or something. Show me a hill and I'll take it. Put on your sand. And if you go over there, the hill is nothing but this rocky, oh my goodness. Put your sandals on, gird your loins, and go up there. And, and he was all for it. He was 88, you know. Joseph, coat of many colors, I think, was also 110, I think, when he died. Very common back then. So a cul-de-sac, I want to take us down for just a second. This is the mind of Wes like you can't imagine. A lot of folks, I think, we look at our age and it affects our behavior, particularly as we get older, all the time. I'm a 15-year-old, look at their, you know, I got the world on a platter, you know, all that. And then as we get older, we start thinking we have more to look back on than we do to look forward on, those kinds of things. I've had friends where my dad died at 62. I'm 48, so I've only got 14 years. You know, those, oh yeah, it's incredible people think like that. My dad, his dad died at 62, and at 56, my dad swore he was dying of a heart attack almost every day. And then he'd go out the next day and play softball with the kids in the neighborhood, running, stealing bases and the whole thing. And he, 56, 50, I remember 59. This is the big one. He just was, you know, I just know.
Was Sanford his favorite TV show?
It should have been, yeah. And my dad died at 96. So we don't know. I have a different outlook, bizarre as it is. The 120, if I'm going to live to 120, that means I've got 42 years yet. What am I going to do with 42 years? What ministry could I start? You know, travel, write a book too, maybe. The whole list of things. If we start thinking we're, whatever age we are, is going to limit, you know, we only got so many years left, and all I want to do is get to 62 so I can retire from this stinking job and go sit on my back porch. I don't think that's the right attitude. For me, it's not anyway. I was never like that. I was always thinking about, and it probably explains why I've had, is it 3 careers, I guess? I mean, I retired from the Air Force in 1987. And then career in finance, master's in theology, PhD in archaeology. I've written 5 books. I have a website where currently about 125 people are studying with me. Just on and on. I still got 42 years to go. What am I going to do with the rest of that? We don't know. It's right when we started this. Only God knows when this. Only God knows when we're going to get called home. But He didn't put us here to sit on our back porch and watch the dog leave their business in the backyard. We have things to do. It says we were created with a purpose, and God says, you know. I have plans for you to prosper and not to fail. I got to find a way to stop this thing from going. Plans for you to prosper and not to fail. So just throwing that out there is, don't take for granted any single day. But on the other hand, plan as though you got 50 more and see what we can get done. Ooh, man, this thing is dangerous. Anyway, that's just me. And as long as we've gone down that cul-de-sac, we'll do one more. I was thinking about suffering in the world last 2 or 3 days. Can't remember. Thursday, Friday. A famous Olympian girl. Been in the news lately. She got picked up. Was it Retton? Mary Lou? Yeah, got picked up for DWI, if I remember right. The things that woman has gone through, just, well, for whatever reason, I thought of Joni Erickson. Jody Erickson, yeah. You guys, this young people, see the young people are on this side of the room over. You notice that? Do you know who she is or was? She's still around, I think, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody know who she was? No?
The name's
No?
not vaguely familiar.
Jody Erickson was Olympic. Was she a diver, I think? Diver, yeah. And came off one of the high dive boards. And
She hit her head on it before or something?
well, I don't know what she hit, but I don't think it was on the board, probably the pool or something. Anyway, broke her neck, paralyzed from the neck down the rest of her life. I mean, totally. She had to learn, you know, one of them little stick things you put in your mouth and to type and, you know, all of this stuff. And oh, yeah, very excellent artist, learned how to paint with her mouth and so on. In the beginning, mad at God, big time. As an international career, she was a known artist as well, blah, 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 all gone in a heartbeat. At her peak, now she's probably retired now, she was probably one of the best testimonies for Christ you could ever imagine, and started her own ministry, and it went international. Terrific woman. Just to listen to her was phenomenal. And that made me think of Sherry. Sherry lived a life of pain. I'm not going to go into that. But because she did, that made her her. Sherry wouldn't have been Sherry if she hadn't been born into that situation and had to deal with all of that, which then made her empathetic to anyone else around who was struggling, particularly women who were trying, you know, had some kind of a challenge and were raising a family and working and all of that. I mean, the maids in hotels, she went crazy over because she used to be a maid in a hotel at one time. The things that happen to us that we see as a negative, Joseph told us a long time back, you meant it for bad, God meant it for good. And we shouldn't get down when things aren't going the way we want them to, because maybe that's the way God wants them to. I know we're going way down a cul-de-sac. It's got nothing to do with the lesson. I'm not even sure that's words of wisdom, but
it's very true.
Yeah.
With, you know, the health issues that we went through with Aralea, our family has not had any of those.
Yep.
You know, we haven't had divorce in our family until Brittany, and it opens up your eyes. And I remember in the hospital, you know, we're dealing with Ari and her heart issues, and you know, you have these other families that are coming in, and they're dealing with kiddos that, you know, the doctor says they're not going to get out of the hospital for a year or more.
Yeah.
And you just become so much more compassionate, and you see people, and you just innately feel what they feel, even if it's not exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
You just know that they're hurting, and you can identify with it so much more.
Yeah, we tend to think as Christians, God's sort of this crystal dome over us, and bad things shouldn't happen. All you evil creatures, you stay out there, you know. And it brings you back to Noah. Noah was surrounded by this, the whole world, it says at the time, had this stone heart, and here's God having him build an ark. They were in kind of a dome at the time, but they were suffering as well. I mean, along came the flood, and yes, they weren't taken away in the flood, but I don't think it was any joyride. And I'm not talking about so much the rising water, but wow, you got all those animals to take care of. And you know, I mentioned this a couple of classes back, you know that the whole world you knew is gone, including the neighbors you couldn't stand, but still. You know, when the door opens, as I said before, there's no 7-Eleven out there. There's nothing. And yet, so you would see that as bad. God saw it, you know, as good. So just, this is what happens when you spend a lot of time by yourself reading the Bible. Sometimes you should just go bowling, I think. But yeah, we remember we're a spirit trapped inside this human body. And someday, Christ is coming again, and we're going to be totally reborn, and it's going to be marvelous. But we got to get through this stuff first, unfortunately. So we're going to keep reading about the flood here then. At verse 39, and they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a handmill, one will be taken and the other left. Let me stop right there again. If you are a student of the rapture, that's not it. The number of books I've read where they quote these 2 verses as the rapture, one in the field, the other left. One thing that's got nothing to do with it. This is about sorting out good from bad. It's got nothing to do with the rapture. Just make a note. Therefore, keep watch. Now, this is a part I want to talk about this morning. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch, there's that word again, and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also, he's talking to us now, must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Do we expect Christ today? Now, probably us, maybe not. I'd say a good part of the world wants him to come back today. By the time he comes back, nobody will even be thinking of him. But what's it say to us? You also must be ready, because you do not know the hour. We can't walk around, and he'll talk about that in a second. Well, obviously, based on all the signs that we're studying about, Christ isn't coming back tomorrow. I got plenty of time. In fact, he's probably not coming back till after I'm going off the earth, so I'm not worried about this stuff. Wrong. God's putting these things in here for us to read so that we can be on the watch, if you will. We know what to look for. That's the important thing here. If God didn't give us end time prophecy, we'd be fooled like everybody else with every lousy little Messiah that comes out of a prison cell. Because we wouldn't know that, oh, that's really not a sign. That's really not, I don't care what he says, that's not the Messiah. That's why these things are in here. They may not happen for 1,000 years yet, but we need to know them so that we're not misled and so that we can be watching for when he is coming. So then he says, we're almost to the end of the chapter. Yeah, we're going to be just fine today. So then, verse 45, who then is the faithful and wise servant whom the master has put in charge of the servants? So he is now going to define a faithful and wise servant, and all of us want to be that. All together now, correct? Yes, okay. Yes, so who then is that faithful and wise servant whom the master has put in charge of the servants in his household? So all of us are in charge of something. It's obvious, point the pastor and say, look, this church thing, that mess, that's all yours. We'll see you later. But every one of us are responsible for something, whether it's family, ourselves, our spouse, whatever it is, our job. We have responsibilities. You're not born into this world and you don't have them. We do have a population that believes that's not true. I'm not responsible for anything, and therefore, if you hurt me, I'm going to sue But the reality of it is, we're all put here with responsibilities. And he says, whom the master has put in charge of his servants in his household to give them their food at the proper time. It will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly, I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose that servant is wicked and says to himself, my master is staying away a long time. And he then begins to beat his friend. Now, if the pastor starts beating any of us, that's a clue right away, okay? He then begins, oh, heaven help us.
You can't put hand and foot in there.
Yeah, don't leave a bruise. It says, my master is staying away a long time, and he begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunkards, basically, unrighteous lifestyle, if you will. the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour when he is not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Yuck. So you can actually read this not two different ways, but okay, we're looking at signs of Christ coming again. Maybe it's not tomorrow, but maybe tomorrow is the end of your day. We don't know when Christ is going to call us home. The lost don't know when they're going to die and end up in Hades. As a kid, I'm sure Bill was the same way, probably Lonnie. You'd go to church Sunday morning and, oh man, you're going to die tonight. You better take Christ this afternoon. You don't want to leave this church without knowing Christ as your Savior. You could get killed in a car accident. I don't know how many times. And I'm like 9, 10. I'm going to die on the way home from church. But it was an immediate thing. The way they drove the gospel for you to accept Christ was threaten you effectively. In some churches still today, the Lord's Supper. If you accept Christ, you get baptized right away. And some of them will even do the Lord's Supper following that. Is it bing, bing, bing? Because they feel like you have to have all your merit badges or you're not going to heaven. Now, the thief on the cross had none of those, and somehow he got there, but not going to argue theology today, although I may attempt to. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know when the Lord's going to call us home. If Sherry didn't know, I didn't know if she was home. And the same for the lost world. So the urgency isn't, Christ is coming back tomorrow, I better get things done. It's, I could be called home tomorrow, or a friend of mine who doesn't know Jesus could be called home tomorrow. That's the urgency. Doing what I'm supposed to be doing for the Lord today before the clock runs out on me. Now, Paul, on the other hand, Paul, on the other hand, had this thing called Pauline zeal. And I think I've shared that in the class before, too. He believed that Christ was either going to come back in his lifetime, or that if he didn't, it would be shortly after he was called to heaven. He'd turn around and come right back with Jesus. There is that. And I kind of went through a period of that myself, because we have to watch how we view end times. And as a young guy, when I really started, the Lord was opening my eyes to things. I thought, this is going to happen in the next 2 years. Well, my kids are, one of them hadn't even been born yet. Kimberly was maybe 2 at the time. I thought, well, I guess I don't need to save money for college. And I mean, if you really believe that it's going to come back, in the next 5 years, it changes your, don't do that. That isn't what, we're supposed to take it one day at a time. Don't worry about tomorrow. God takes care of the birds in the air. He'll take care of you. We're just to focus on working in the kingdom. And that's the message you're going to hear from me all the time, is a lot of this stuff is just distracting us. But the lost world, they're in it out there. And they're looking for answers. The more the world gets messed up, the more the opportunity is for someone to find Jesus in it. Because if all is peace and safety, and I've got a job and a nice income and my kids are fine and all of that, who needs a savior? But if the world's upside down, you know where one of the biggest areas of evangelistic growth, I guess I'd call it, is right now? It's not Brazil, I can tell you that. It's Iran. And in fact, a few days back, I forget what radio station was I listened to too many things. Anyway, they had a lady on who's in charge of the evangelical movement in Iran. She said, "You're not going to believe it's exploding over there in a big, big way. And people are coming to Christ. And this is an underground, they're meeting underground, all of it because of the persecution, of course, of the Iranians. At the rate it's going, it won't be underground long. I mean, that's what happened to the Christian church. They tried to keep it on the low, And eventually, I mean, the Roman guards were Christian. Whoops, how'd that happen, Paul? That's what's happening in Iran today. Incredible, absolutely incredible. So nobody knows the hour of the day except God. None of us do, including the Russian. Don't let that distract you. The world's looking for signs. No signs, but we got plenty of signs. You don't need any more signs. Don't let the signs distract you. Works have been created. I can't remember the verse. Created before you were born. God has created works for you to do. I've got the verse on my desk too. That's what we're supposed to focus on. Whether I'll die when I'm 92, tomorrow, or 120. Take each day as it comes. And it says, first, this is what I try to do every morning. And let me tell you, Wes sins big time. But it says, seek you first the kingdom of heaven. When we get up in the morning, we should seek first the kingdom of heaven, get in our Bible, and then we have job, we have work, we have to. I'm no different than the rest of it. I've got work I've got to do too, but we can do it to the glory of God, and further His kingdom just by doing that. Don't let all this other stuff distract you. But it's in the Bible for us to know so that we can watch. That was the last part of the lesson today. We need to know those things. That's why God put them in there, not so we could map out that, oh, He's coming on 21/26 on August the 3rd. No, so that we're not fooled by all this other stuff. And if we're to watch and be ready, we need to know what the signs are so that we're not fooled. And we talked last week, and I think the week before, we are to stand firm with our feet shod in the gospel. So it's our job to stay prepared, and stay up on what's current in the world. Don't stick your head in the sand, and pray your knees off. Because what we'll see, we're starting to see it now, but slow, which is, Satan loves that, is this slow slide into compromise, and eventually the truth is left over there somewhere. And even the church, we'll talk about the church in the end times, what it'll be like. And if anything can eat away at you, it's compromise. Because that TV show's not that bad. Oh, that movie's not that bad. And the next thing you know, you're watching things you shouldn't be watching. Okay. We just drift away. I remember, you guys don't know any of this. I remember All in the Family, Archie Bunker. And what that show did, in my mind, was a big compromise in terms of your Christian walk. I know this sounds odd, but it was the first show that was starting to do things on TV that were never allowed before. Now, the whole censor thing, we could argue about all of that too. It was extreme right, but Archie Bunker's show was really the first. They flushed the toilet. It was in all the newspapers around the world. The next morning, they flushed a toilet. Their kids moved in with them. I mean, there was all these things that were going on in society, but now suddenly they were a part of All in the Family, and people started accepting things that before they would have turned away from. That's what compromise does for you. That's what's going to bring down the church eventually. And again, we get into Revelation, we'll see that. Paul talks a lot about it before then.